is from Ketzer Shem Tov, took it from the Toldot Yaakov Yosef. Or actually, it's the Ben Parat Yosef. Ben Parat Yosef, I think, was the second book of the Toldot after the Yaakov Toldot Yaakov Yosef. Then there was a third book called Safnat Paneah. He says this is the text of the Baal Shem Tov's letter. I don't think this is the most longest version, but it's good enough. Okay, so it is. He says openly that in 1746, Rosh Hashanah, he made hashbas. Is when you and swear. That would be the most literal country, meaning you take on a certain divination of rather a certain process where you channel your soul to go up above your body into the spirit realm, into the quote unquote different heavens. So it's the hashba'at is because there's also certain. It seems like part of the process was like incantations. It's almost like invoking different names of God or different angels, spirits, what have you. So there's certain hashba'at. It's like you're putting a certain way of making it happen through a certain ritualistic practice. Even he says he did a certain ritual basically for the sentence. Ascent of the soul, as you know, because he's telling his brother-in-law, who, even though, and this you'll find in the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov too, even though originally he was one of the greatest antagonists of Baal Shem Tov, but then there was a certain story, which, if I recall, included saving Rabbi Gershon Kitover from drowning in the sea because of questioning him and all that, like some relate. Also with associated with a miracle that Rabbi Gershon Kitover realized that his brother-in-law is no ordinary person, and also Rabbi Gershon Kitover himself also came to believe in the Baal Shem Tov's miracle and Kabbalistic powers. And so the Kiyadu Alacha, as you know here, is most probably the Baal Shem Tov already shared with Gershon Kitover. Other times he had something similar, Aliyat Neshama, right? There's another thing you find in the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov is that when the Baal Shem Tov needs to, he does not shy away of sharing his visions or the way his soul elevations and what have you. And even sometimes he says things that can sometimes come across as spiritual hubris, saying like I'm great, I'm the greatest in whatever, and realizing this, or that only I was able to save the village from a plague or something, right? Things like that. Baal Shem Tov is a very interesting character. For example, even when he had, and we spoke about this Pesach time, when he had his fallen spirit, as it's known as, when he he lost all of his superpowers, so to speak, all of his knowledge. Even then, he wasn't depressed. He just was almost always mystified. He needed to experience a state of simplicity at times, and he was there. But it's like he was very, and he also very trusted his intuition. That's another feature of the Baal Shem Tov, so much. And I don't see you have much in the way that he doubts. And even if he does, it's not out of confusion. There's certain types of, I've seen this, let's say with Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he almost never, and that's a great feature of Lubavitcher Rebbe, that as far as I meant, one is that he was always a Rebbe being one of the main qualities of that makes the Rebbe is a certain clarity and assertiveness, not being wishy-washy, being clear of one's choices and acting and living by it, sticking by it also most of the time, what have you. So someone like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, remember, he was very clear and very decisive. That's the word. His critics would say he was too stubborn, but even when he did have something called like a suffix or to truthfully, it was coming out of very deep intelligence and understanding of situations, and it was almost it was unnecessary stuff to clarify. But it wasn't like he was doubting that the ability to make a certain decision. Sometimes, in rare cases, he changed his position in certain things. It seemed like for example, pursuing the who is a Jew issue in Israel, Mil Yehudi, which the Rebbe was crusading from the early 70s, but by the mid-late 80s, he quietly stopped focusing on it. There was a certain recognition, for whatever reason, things weren't. And but by and large, there was a clarity and steadfastness, and that similar quality you see with the Baal Shem Tov. This that the Baal Shem Tov had. He's referenced saying he had Aliyat and Neshama, ascent of the soul, Rosh Hashanah 1746, and implying that he already had it in the past, and then he's sharing it with his brother-in-law, Gershon Kitover, means that he's clear. He's not doubting. He had a mystical or spirit experience, vision, and to him it's true, like being like the letter he's writing in whatever day it was is reality. And the Baal Shem Tov continues, and I saw amazing stuff in a vision, which I have never seen until now, from the day that I had consciousness or became intelligent, or so he stood up, maybe he was a thinking person. And here I think is also another implication that he already shared with Gershon Kitover, that he already had visions before, just this one was the greatest one he ever had. And that which I saw and learned, or experienced, Baal Shem Tov telling his brother-in-law, when I went up there, meaning up to heaven with Aliyat and Neshama, it's impossible for me to communicate, transmit, even face to face. And some people have have certain experiences, especially in certain types of ceremonies all night, and then people are have reached such a level that they say openly that they cannot even articulate in words and communicate what they experienced. That's how great it was. So the Baal Shem Tov continues about this vision. But when I returned to the lower Gan Eden, meaning that which got so high where he reached this Aliyah, was not just to the lower Gan Eden, but was the upper Gan Eden, Gan Eden HaElyon. So something amazing happened up there. And what really happened there, he can't even describe. But when on his way back down, he's mentioning on his way back down before he even began talking about going way back up, because he's just wanting to compare. He says, on my way back down of myself into the lower Gan Eden, very easy common and I saw that various living and deceased souls. How you doing, Lee? You doing? Some that were familiar to me, I knew who they were, and some I didn't know who they were. The Li Shir Umispar. There were innumerable amounts of these souls. They were all like going up and down, like all like twittering, flowing, like motion, in motion, and going up and down. To go from one world or dimension to the other through the known column. That's those that know Chen, meaning those that know Kabbalah. And this is an obvious reference to what the Zohar talks about it, for example, that there's a column between the Gan Eden and different levels of Gan Eden, and also between the Hichalas, the chambers, the 7 chambers too. It seems also there's a bit of, even there's one that you could go slide all the way up or down. Not even going, because a column is greater than a ladder. Because if you have, that's the difference of the fireman will tell you, you climb up the ladder to go, but you slide down the pole, right? That's the way it goes. But in this case, there's a way to even slide up the pole, okay, to go all the way up. Ooh, as known. So there's it's known as Amuda de Nahira, the column of fire of flame, and it's related also to the Nahar Dinar, the river of fire that's mentioned in Daniel chapter 7 that I think we looked at quite a while ago. So this central middle column is a way. It's brought down in the Zayar and other Kabbalah is a way for the different neshamas to ascend, to go up, but they also, it says they have to go through the mikvah of the rivers. So there is the column going up, but they also have to. There's a cleansing process in the neshamas. Let's say if the lowest is Gehenna and they want to go to the highest levels of Gan Eden, this is the way neshamas go up with the column, and the column is going through these fiery mikvahs to purify them even more. Sometimes it says they go up and then they drop down into Hadanar, and then they're purified to go even higher. It's like a little bit, that's the Ratzin and Shav. But with each Ratzin and Shav up and down, they're still making progress going up. Understood? So the Baal Shem Tov is saying that at some point, he made the Aliyah to the uppermost Gan Eden, sounds like, but now he started coming landing, so to speak. Makes it to the lower. By the way, I don't feel too guilty going through this before we delve into Abdul Malka stuff, or even the Parsha, because this says this was for Rosh Hashanah happened, meaning, and we're mamish right before Rosh Hashanah time, so it's very appropriate we're looking at this. Even though there isn't any real discussion about Rosh Hashanah itself, but you'll see there's certain things that Rosh Hashanah is expressed here. For example, we know Rosh Hashanah is the time that we know it's like this. It's about the time of judgment, when practically things are going to happen to one's life, to one's community, neighborhood, land. It could be plagues, it could be death, it could be great, amazing joys and simchas and what have you. So as you'll see later, hopefully. Okay, we'll go on. So he says. So. Needs a second. Good. They say Gesundheit was the life force. People used to pass away when they sneezed. If you sneezed, that was the end of your life. That was the way, I think, till Yaakov, I think it says, right? So that's why we say Gesundheit, the soul. So that's another thing, the soul and the body. It's also another theme for tonight. Here, the Aliyat and Neshama, maybe about that was part of it, sneezing, I don't know. Anyways, so all the souls, and now he's in the lower level of Ganem, but even there, it's a packed house of souls floating up and down and things. You understand what's going on? This is the lower level. You're seeing all this. Okay. And how are these neshamas? They are the Simcha Rabbi Gedela. They're an extreme, pure, sheer joy. Great joy. Asher Yola Sape, that the mouth cannot even attempt to describe. The covered Eizin Gagash Mishmaya, and the physical ear cannot, it would be too heavy, too hard for the physical human ear to even receive it, to hear it. If he's saying, I can't even describe it. I could just describe to you what was happening there, but I can't describe really what was happening there. Just that there was there. The Gam Rishayim, what he witnessed there in Gan Eden Atachton is that Rishayim Rabim Chazru B'tshuva V'nibn Cholahen Avenaysehem, that many of these souls were doing tshuva in this process of the going up and downs, and their souls were their sins were being forgiven. In this whole process, was mamish, this was the tshuva process going on this level too. If I recall, when we were learning from the Zohar and other places about the 7 chambers Heichalas above, which is correlates with the Gan Eden chambers, there was a specific chamber that had to do with Baal Tshuvas. Baal Tshuvat, I think it was something like the third or fourth, like one of the lower ones. In that case, it wouldn't be something like a name. Okay. So now the Baal Shem Tov is continuing to write again in first person. This is a private letter to his brother-in-law. And it seems like one of the reasons we do even have a copy was, again, either because the copy made to Israel, or also that a copy was lost, so he had to write another one, and then they found the other one was something to that effect. So this is as authentic as it gets written in the Baal Shem Tov's own language. And, okay, so he goes. Pasha Shahaya Ace here. We're on the fourth line. Pasha Shahaya Ace Ratzin Gadol. And for this time, when he went up this Rosh Hashanah, 1746, it was a great Ace Ratzin time of ultimate, like, things could happen greatly if you just know how to ask for it or get it. He's saying it was Ace Ratzin, meaning it was a special time for people to do tshuva. That's why all these souls were doing tshuva. So much so the Baal Shem Tov is saying, I myself was surprised how many were being accepted. Their tshuva was being accepted. So even more so great when we're learning it now in Elul. Shigam, and it continues. Shigam ati yadaita esim. He's saying, amongst these Baal Tshuvas were certain people that you, dear brother-in-law, knew them personally or knew of them. And they were also, amongst them also, they were in great joy. By the way, this is another proof of the great Hasidic approach of tshuva, which is, yes, to be serious about it and even to cry in that, but ultimately it's about the joy of doing tshuva. It's in fact even a teaching, and it has to do even with our parsha. In our parsha, Parsha, which says that all the curses that happen in the Parsha, which happens this week, which is even more than the Chukaisai, because it transforms to the positive and all that. But it says, it says in the end, why all these negative things happen? Because we didn't serve Hashem with joy and a glad heart. And it's a great, I forget who was the Rebbe. I don't think it was a Kutsk. It could be because the Vart itself is so non-Kutsk. But whichever the Rebbe was, said, there's one mitzvah, there's one thing in the Torah that's not a mitzvah, but without it, you cannot keep any of the mitzvahs. And that is this pasuk. To do everything we do b'simcha. Okay? Including that the chiddush is, okay, you want to put on filling, you want to shake the love of an answer, simcha, I see it. But tshuva, what do you mean? What joy? Adra, doesn't tshuva mean you need charata? You have regret and really work on oneself and confront one's even darker side and things that can even be painful. And even as courageous as it is to work to make that change. But it's heavy stuff. Where's the joy here, right? But no. Well, firstly, the very fact that we can change is in itself a great, amazing thing. And itself is a reason to be both grateful and joyful. Secondly, the way, like the deepest, best way of tshuva is that we could start seeing even the positive, and even in those things, even the things we regrettably do, or what have you, even the things we're trying to get away from. That even that there was something positive that came out of that experience, even the most negative one, and that in itself is a way that could enhance and learn from it. And as someone says, right, to learn from our errors and have no regrets. We should have regrets, but in a way not because by overcoming them, by these errors, mistakes we make, we would become better yet. So it's mamash. So that's self to be simple. And here we see taka. That's why that's so stereotypical. The difference of like Chasidisha or non-Chasidisha Elul or Chassidish or non-Chassidish, Yom Kippur, all these things, or Tshuva. Even within Chassidus, very generally, you could see it as the difference between Tshuva Tata, the lower Tshuva, or Tshuva Ilah, the upper Tshuva. That the lower Tshuva, Tshuva Tata, is more about having the regret and getting away from bad stuff. But still, all the negativity is still an issue that you're working through. The higher level, more superior Tshuva it's all about just becoming more pure and getting more to that light and the pure source, and just become more less animal, more angelic, right? That elevating ourselves. That's too here, in a way, you could say that when Baal Shem Tov is speaking about the ascent of the soul, Aliyat Neshama, he's not just talking about his own personal mystical high experience, and even how real it was for him. Hey, Menachem Mendy, great to see you. You're just coming into, we're in the middle of discussing the Baal Shem Tov's Aliyat Neshama, right? So Aliyah in this case also is related to that upper level, higher level of tshuva, which means mamish, to elevate ourselves. This explains also why even a tzaddik can do tshuva. If tshuva is about correcting an aveira, let's call it for what it is. So if a tzaddik doesn't do aveiras, or so then why is there a need to elevate? Like, what's going on? Where's the tshuva? So there's different answers. Of course, there's the answer that there's even a tzaddik on his level, her level also has his type of aveira, that which for us could even be considered a mitzvah, right? And the different teachings, that's how they explain things with Moshe Rabbeinu when he didn't. Seems like, certain things that Hashem told him to do, and seems like he didn't follow it all the way through and exactly the way Hashem wanted, which really it's explained. He was doing certain right things, but just for Moshe Rabbeinu, he should have been on a higher standard, what have you. So this is all like how superior we are. There's also the verse that Ein Tzadik Ba'aretz Asher Lo Yachta, that there is no right, even tzaddik that does not sin on ultimately in some level. Nobody's perfect, even a tzaddik in a way, even a tzaddik could tell you possibly, like the highest level of tzaddik. But even so, even if we want to say the tzaddik is perfect, mamish, still, teshuva means not like the Latin word of penance, of regretting and breaking all that, but simply to return. From the word tashuv, as it says tashuv hey, to return, and that in itself. So the tzaddik too, with the aliyah of ascent of the tzaddik soul, that in itself is returning to the source, becoming more pure, becoming greater. So the Baal Shem Tov's, so ironically, even more so, there's a tshuva process. Maybe there's a subtext here. Baal Shem Tov is making doing tshuva of his soul, so to speak, on his level, and thereby encountering people who are doing of lower levels than Baal Shem Tov, who did real sins, that are doing the tshuva on their level, and that it's all connected with this motion of the soul of ascent, or in the case also Ratzon and Shov, as I mentioned, and that is the tshuva process. Okay, and again that they were just full of joy doing this tshuva. But Olu Gamkin B'aliyas, and they also went up with these aliyot, with these ascents. And I did something there. That means that these souls, that Baal Tshuva souls, returning souls, also reached higher states than we were before through the Tshuva process. But Kulam Ke'echad Bikshu Mimeni, and they all these Baal Tshuva souls, and maybe the other souls too, requested from me, Baal Shem Tov, Tsiru, Hirtzubi, and they were like demanding from me, really begging from me, basically, ad bush, till like to the extreme supplication, Ba'amram, to say, Ba'amram, saying the following, quote, L'rum malis kvei terascha, Chanancha Hashem bebina yisera l'hasik l'das minyanim eila. You, dear sir, honored, great honor of Torah, of your Torah. So again, in this letter, Baal Shem Tov is writing of himself that he's being referred to in lower Gan Eden by souls as someone who is of Torah stature, not just a great mystic, holy tzaddik, but of Torah knowledge too. Again, a proof of that. That Hashem bequeathed you, graced you with exceedingly great insight, wisdom, understanding of things, and to understand various areas or subjects, different stuff. So therefore, please rise with us to be for us like a guardian or a chaperone. Again, we find, as you mentioned, let's say that certain times the Baal Shem Tov was asked to come along to help people. We know even in non-Jewish literature, there's like the Dante's Inferno, there's Virgil and other, there are different guides or angelic guides, angel Gabriel sometimes in different stories guides people going up. We've read this when Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel went up in the Hechalot, in the chambers. They also had different angel guides and such. So here they're saying, Baal Shem Tov, who else is better than you? You're the best guy for you to come and come along with us to make sure that we're ascending and everything's good, cleared, and everything's working out smoothly. So now that's what they asked the Baal Shem Tov to go up with them. So now the Baal Shem Tov continues, because of the great sheer joy that I saw amongst them, I said to rise with them. I told myself, yeah, I'm going to go up with them. And then, in the brackets here is what was, I think, added by a more full version or another version. And so the Baal Shem Tov continues, and I saw in this vision, I suppose, when he wanted to go up with these souls, that the other side, the other power, that's the dark side, the shadow side, went up to try to stop and disturb this great sheer joy that there was never such a joy before. And he wanted to mamish cut off. There was, like we were reading before, the story with the kids and the werewolf, that also here, from Shivcha Baal Shem Tov, that here too, like the Samach Mem, we also call it, or sometimes in the Shivcha Baal Shem Tov, so he even calls it openly the Satan, or Sitra Achra, like here, tries to stop the great powers of the Baal Shem Tov himself or from others. That Baal Shem Tov, so Baal Shem Tov is almost like a shtickle, not to be too crass, like a spiritual holy Superman. Like when the people even can try to do so, there are certain obstacles. He comes to help and save and block from the great villain that's holding back, trying to stop the peace or the great fun, joy in the amusement park, right? Whatever it is. So Upal Pulaisa Gzeirishman. So what did the Samachman and the Satan do to try to stop all this great joy that was bringing that could lead to great positive things that could happen to the Jewish community down here especially being Rosh Hashanah for that year. Whatever happens, Rosh Hashanah that establishes the whole year. Right, when it gets close to Rosh Hashanah, we'll talk about how that happens, the contradiction, If how can we say that everything's decided Rosh Hashanah? Then other places it says it's decided every day of the year, not just the beginning. So obviously the general begins the beginning, then it's parceled out for every day of the year. That's one way to look at it. Be it as it may, what this letter he's describing his aliyat and neshama honor is there's a reason why things that are happening very serious, very existential, and very like very threatening even on Rosh Hashanah because of this day, because it's happening on Rosh Hashanah, which decides so much for the future, for that spirit, right? So this other side, the negative power, activated different gezeret shmad, that there would be certain decrees of Jews that would be forced or threatened to convert or be killed or be whatever they were going to do. Yeah, he says to be killed in all different terrible ways, and which the Jews would not convert to, and therefore would be killed in this way. So this all the Satan was arranging to be the counterforce, all this joy, so it will bring great sorrow to the Jewish community and to these souls too, and stop all the joy above. So now the Baal Shem Tov realizes what's going on with the other side. So I requested from my teacher, my master teacher, should go with me. So who is this master teacher he's referring to? Who knows? Hint, hint, we spoke about it before, like an hour and a half ago. Anyone? So the answer is this rabbi and teacher is Achia Hashiloni, aka Chaya Yechida, that we mentioned before. The spirit teacher, the teacher in flesh, according to Rabbi Baal Shem Tov, was Rabbi Adam Baal Shem, possibly. Even though Gershon Shalom doesn't fully agree with that, but be it as it may. But on a soul level, for sure, we know it was the great prophet Achia Shiloni, and even higher, the soul state thereof. So we're talking about really high level of what they would call in other sources astral level soul, right? And teacher, the Baal Shem. So I asked, Baal Shem says, I asked my teacher, should I venture to go that high up with these souls? Both for myself personally and especially with these less refined souls that have not gotten that high yet. It's a great danger to make these ascents to such high dimensions above the lower Gan Eden. Because since I came into existence, it says I did not myself even reach high. I did make it higher, maybe even higher than the lower Gan Eden, but not as high in the highest levels of the upper Gan Eden. So he's saying it was both a sakana for me and for them. So basically, he goes on, and if I recall, there's more material in between than this version doesn't have. Be it as it may, he continues. Now he's going alone. Okay, basically he's going alone at this point. He says, I went up one level after other of stages of paradise, of Garden of Eden. Until I entered the chamber of Mashiach. This here, this is the second paragraph. Where there Mashiach is learning Torah with all the great sages of Talmud and righteous, and also with the 7 shepherds. Right, the 7 shepherds include even the 3 patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Shlomo, etc. And there too, I saw great, humongous joy in the chamber of Mashiach with the great patriarchs and greatest righteous ones. And I knew they were all so happy, but I still couldn't figure out why are they so happy. And I thought, maybe I actually passed away. Maybe my soul just left my body permanently. I've already made it into paradise. And I went straight to the highest level. And it's just like bliss of soul after passing away. And they're all happy that I am now here, have returned to the source, like I was before born into a body, Baal Shem Tov is saying. So maybe that's why they're happy. That's like the welcoming home of my soul after living in this world. Ideally, no, but then no. Why? Because ideally, but then they told me that the tzaddikim in the chamber of Mashiach told him, no, Baal Shem Tov, you didn't pass away, died. You're really still alive in a body. You're just having a Aliyat Neshama, ascent of the soul. Why did you not pass away from your body? Because they have great delight, pleasure, joy above when I am here in this world, physical world, and doing the physical embodied and physical practices of mitzvah and prayer and study and what have you, and doing it with all the great unifications, meaning either through being conscious through the study, just by doing it, creating these great unifications, as spoken about so much in Kabbalah, especially the Arizal's Kabbalah, making the unifications, because everything we do and pray and say and Torah and everything is creating unifications of different formulas of God's names and different letters of the alphabet and energies and so on and so forth. So he says, because he says that moreover, that he's saying that these great sages above of the Talmud and the Chumash and all that, and even Moshe, they're having great joy from when I am engrossed in learning their Torah down here in the world. So they don't want me to come up there. They're getting more delight of me learning down here in the world and then hearing it up there than me even being there in their presence, quote unquote, physically. Let's say soul physically, right? Okay. But still, so it's not because I passed away, Baal Shem Tov said. So still it was befuddled. Hashem says, I never figured it out why they were so happy. But that was the fact, they were so happy in it. So he continues. V'sha'alti es pi Mashiach. So I asked Mashiach, when are you, sir? This is the song we were singing from. When are you coming down to earth, dear Rabbi Mashiach? The Heishiv Li, and here's the famous act. So Mashiach replied to me, this is how you, Baal Shem Tov, will know when Mashiach is arriving. When your teachings will be publicized, the Yiskala Ba'ilam, and will be revealed in the world, the Afutsu Mainesecha Chutza, and your fountains will spread forth out to the outside. Mashalamadati Oischa, from the teachings that I taught you, Mashiach said. So apparently Mashiach already, there was some encounter, or somehow Mashiach already taught Baal Shem Tov some teaching. Not saying that I'm teaching, I will teach you. He says, I taught you. So Baal Shem Tov was already a carrier of Messianic teachings. So he's saying that these teachings that I gave you, that I taught you, they sakta, and you comprehended. You got it. That means you had enough time to understand it and know it. So you take these teachings of mine and Mashiach, and you understand it, but it's not just for you, but it's for them, for your students, that especially that inner elitist core we were speaking about, that the yuchlu gam hema lasis yuchud alis kamech, that they too should be able to make yuchudim and aliyas like you. Well, actually, I'm going to take that back a bit again, because it says v'yiskala ba'olam, be revealed in the world. So there's a thing that may be saying that even these ways of making yichudim, unifications, and aliyas, a sense of the soul, this isn't small things. This isn't just going around saying Baruch Hashem or singing songs. It's a serious spiritual work, right? So it seems like he's saying that Mashiach is saying when everyone or the bulk of the world can get there to that level, then he's going to arrive. But my feeling reading, I both this, but even more, I think there's a more expanded version of this letter, if I recall. You could read it actually. He's even to that his own students should get to this level itself seems like would be a strong feat. Okay, let's see, continue and see why I think so. But as yichlu, once those who can or should or would, whether the world or the Baal Shem Tov students, get to that level of making the right yichudim and kavanot and aliyot, then yichlu kol klipot, all the klipot, all the negative dark forces will be obliterated. Yia Israt and Yeshua, and it will be a time of great Hashem's open, pure goodwill and salvation. Right? V'tim hati azeh. So he continues, and now I had great, Hashem says, and I was greatly surprised by this. By that, this is the meaning. I was shocked, surprised by Mashiach's answer and what he, and the and what it would take for Mashiach to come to be revealed. And Baal Shem Tov says, I had great pain. Basically, how long it will take to spread these greatest teachings of Yechudim and Baal Shem Tov's teachings to the people, even to his students. And it'll take such a long time. So in some places it says V'yismarme belibi, if I recall another version, that he has like his heart was like bewailing it, and he said so. He's continuing. When I was in this chamber, I learned there shleisha dvarim. Skules. I learned three things. Skulot. Again, skulot is like certain practices of ways to heal or prevent or do things. I just showed you earlier a book from a descendant of Baal Shem Tov, of his skulas, and that Baal Shem Tov was known for different skulot, especially being a medicine man. So he says when he was in the chamber of Mashiach, he received three skulot, how to do them, and three holy names. That means three special secret Hashem God names. Let's not to confuse, not to mix religions here, but almost like God mantra names, secret ones that weren't known, but special formulas meant. And though he's learning it from up there, but they're easier to learn and to understand or to expand upon their sex. Meaningly, there's these three sugulot and just three names. If you know how, if you could, what's the word? I don't know why I'm blanking out in my English. If you know how to, when you acquire, you get to know it well. You acquire the skill. If you know how to, please someone help me. English. If you master them, okay. If you master them, so then you'll be able to get there. And and once I realized that, then all right, now I was more at ease. That it is possible. There is. It does not seem impossible to do that for Mashiach to come. That there is a way and things we can do to bring him. But some people, by the way, there's a joke I heard it from somebody like that there's a Hasidic way of reading this text. And he says three skulot and three names, and then it says vehein. It says and they are easy to learn and to interpret, right? But the Chassidish Shabbat says Vehein, that the three names themselves are these three words in Hebrew. Benakel, Milmed, Lefarish. Okay, but of course it's that's not the real pshat, but there's that, and I think there's even some pshat teachings of how these are three names of God. Okay, be it as it may. The Baal Shem Tov continues, "V'chashafti," and I thought, is it possible that through this, just through these three Meir Segulot and three names, people, the people of my age, that means people of my ilk, to come to a level like me, like my highest level, like Baal Shem Tov is saying, will it be that easy? It's such an easy spiritual fix. Like they say, you can either practice meditation, blah, 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 asceticism for 20 years, or you could drop a little psychedelic something and on some level it may be similar. I mean, maybe getting to an actual same experience in a certain way. But yeah, exactly. Jonathan says in the text chat, take 3 schools and 3 shamans and call me in the morning, 100%. Yeah. So in a way, not to belittle pure practice and not to overhype psychedelic substances, but and especially because there's a great, actually, speaking of this letter, there's a great long essay, I think I shared it in the past, of Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi about his first LSD trip and comparing it and contrasting it to this letter of Baal Shem Tov. And his summation is, he says towards the end, at the end, that no, the letter, the Baal Shem Tov's Aliyah was a more authentic one, and it was more long lasting and had more of an effect. And with LSD and whatever, he said it wears off and you're back to the grounds back to where you were originally. It's not necessarily transformational as much. I personally, I'm not sure why he described it that way, because you do know there's the famous Good Friday experiment of Harvard with psychedelics, psilocybin and LSD, I think, and that it has, and they followed up 25 years later with the seminarians who took it, and that yes, it was transformational for their lives. So I think what Reb Zalman means is that, in a way, it's a bit of an as real and amazing it is, there's a bit of an artificiality to it. It's not coming from within most. And I know myself, when I was doing it certain times, a straight meditation practice without any substances or anything, like serious, with like 10 days with no talking and just meditating, it reached certain effects, closer to psychedelic states, that any substances, I've never had it like that, like compared to that way, was that it was both very clear and grounded and very, it was like really up, like one of the most moving, even emotionally, type of experiences I've had. So there's something to be said that. There's a letter from Lubavitcher Rebbe, he says, regardless of saying whether LSD, it's a letter about LSD itself, whether it's giving, what it's producing, what have you, but the mere fact that you're saying that you could just take something quickly and it'll have the effects, a strong effect right away, and all that without any work in it, then it's like if you say lo yagaiti matzasi al tamin, say I don't have to do work and I found something, then don't believe it. Meaning, then it's not a real work all the way through. You know what I mean? So that is so that this Baal Shem Tov letter exemplifies that type of real scent, real aliyah. Okay, and he's saying here too, even that there is a shortcut even in kavanah to get there, and that the hainu b'yosem yachaylim laliyas neshamas yilmud v'yasil gam kumayani. He's saying that, and with these three Meir schools and names, they'll be able to make neshamas and learn and understand things like me. But okay, so he acquired the secret, super secret short formula from very directly from Mashiach's chamber. So in a way, it's the solution, because now all he has to do is share it, and then once everyone knows it, the secret's out, then Mashiach can arrive. But no, the catch here is they, the ones above, did not give me permission to reveal it all these years, to reveal to everyone. However, I even asked them for you specifically, dear brother-in-law, to teach you this, and the irony is, it's easy to learn. It's not hard, but yet they didn't allow to learn, and they didn't even for you, dear brother. And I am sworn by above not to reveal what they are. But here's the last paragraph. But this I can tell you, inform you. Hashem Yevazecha, and God should be at your help, and be the presence of the gods be in your way, and not and not forsake you. Especially in the Holy Land, which is where his brother-in-law he's sending it to, that you should do the following. That the when you pray and you study, and you're enunciating, emitting the words from your mouth, you should have kavanah of some name. I'm not going to tell you what specific name, each words and what have you is different, but you should in general have kavanahs of a certain name, divine name. Because in every letter of our prayers or our study Torah, there are these three things. There's the world where it is, its dimension. There's the soul of it, of this letter, and there's the divine potency of it. Okay. And these three interplays, the world, meaning dimension, the soul, and the godliness, God powers, they ascend with our prayers and Torah study and interconnect and unite one with the other. Right? There is, we know from the Zayah, there's three others: Yisrael, Eraisa, God, Israel, Torah, and God. This is a different form of it. Neshamas could be Israel, right? Soul. God is godliness, and worlds. So these worlds instead of Torah, but because we're learning the Torah also, but the Torah is going through them all. Okay. So when you each letter you have a kavanah, and you say and you work on connecting the world, soul, and God and divine elements of it, and that like locks in they're a good entity. Now they could, like Lego stick pieces, they can now lock on to other letters that have been worked on, or like cells latching on each other, whatever you want, and found their axon neuron connectivity, even if you want to look at it that way too. And now it's expanding one letter with another. Now it's creating words. That's interesting, and which is in itself now in this extreme unity. The tichlon nishmasachi imahem b'chol b'china b'china now, and you should include, and you should encompass in your soul with them every of these aforementioned aspects. And by uniting all the worlds together and ascending, that means with each letter, bring these three elements aligned and connected, and the letters with words, and then going up and up and up. That makes it go ascend even higher. And this in itself produces great immeasurable joy and delight above. As you could understand just by in a smaller dimension, like the joy of bride and groom in the real world, right? All the more so above, in the highest realms above. Certainly God will be your assistance, anything you get involved in, you should succeed and perform. Okay, so this is the short version letter as mentioned. So just reading that. And now there's more than one way we could connect it. Even this theme with, I'll just put it out there with the two themes. It's connected with Malav Malka, because as we'll see, hopefully when we discuss it more, that Malav Malka is also about bringing. What are we talking about here? That Baal Shem Tov is also learning that as high as you go, we have to still be down here in this world too, to make it happen, spread it down here. And that there's also the idea of yichud is like we say Shem yichud kutcher brichul shchinte, unite kutcher zer ampin, let's say, and malchus shchina is not just up spiritually, but it also means merging the spiritual with the physical, like the soul with the body. So that we have also, in addition to Shabbos, of course, but on Shabbos, the soul uniting with the body is that the body is, in a way, becomes less body and becomes more spiritualized and becomes more elevated. That's the idea of elevation of the soul of Shabbos that we spoke at length. However, when it comes to Motzei Shabbos, now the soul is coming back down into the body, meaning down, and meaning the body itself is coming back down more, becoming more physical, and the soul is coming into it more, and taking it to a new level. So remember last week we discussed at length what the body aspect of Motzei Shabbat and with the loose stone and what have you. But there's also the interplay of the body of Shabbos and Motzei Shabbos with the soul and what is happening with the soul during this process. And the bottom line is that we get to a point where the soul, right after Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, is the time where the soul can be part of the body as the body is on its most physical, ordinary level, not as the body is on a higher, elevated level, but as the body is already down. There, the soul in its highest level can become fully unified with it, okay, and be one. And we're going to show how that's connected with things that's related to not only the meal like Malav Malka, but also how it's related to things like the psamim, the incense, that what we smell during Havdalah, and also the lights, the candles that we burn for Havdalah, okay, which is connected with the soul element of Shabbos.